Hello and welcome to the Wedding Pro podcast, the podcast where we share tips and tricks for wedding vendors and couples, share insight into the wedding world, and share about our experiences. We are Gracie and Angela Felix of Felix Wedding Films. We are so glad you tuned into this week's episode. Now let's get into it. All right, so I am so excited to continue in this series. It's called What Wedding Vendors Wish You Knew. I'm excited to have Amanda on today to talk about what wedding floral designers wish couples and vendors knew. So before we dive into the episode, Amanda, do you mind introducing yourself, telling the listeners what you do, where you're based, when you started, anything that you feel like you should share?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Amanda. I am Amanda Jewel Lankford. Jewel is my middle name. It was my great grandmother's. So oftentimes we do name our businesses after ourselves or grandmas. It's become a thing. And then now my daughter shares the middle name too. So that's where Amanda Jewel came from. For a while there, when I first started 13 years ago. Wow, I'm showing my age a little bit. A lot of people thought I owned a jewelry company. I didn't quite think through that a little bit. But here we are, 13 years later, Amanda Jewel Floral Design. So we do florals and design, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit. We were originally based in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a born and raised Georgia gal, born in Athens, grew up in Atlanta, Covington, Conyers, East Atlanta, Lilburn, everywhere. Now I'm in my home in Montana. We moved here, I would say about 5 years ago. We're one of those COVID babies, and we just up and moved and decided to just change. My husband says change the trajectory of our children's lives, and we sure did that. And it also changed Amanda Jewel as well. So here we are. I am based in Montana. And then my team is just kind of scattered a little bit across the country. So we do have 2, 3 full-time employees here, and then we have Miss Heather over in Georgia, and that's us.
Awesome. I love the whole middle name. I was wondering where that came from. It's very, very pretty middle name, and little side tangent, it makes me think of, you said that your daughter also has that middle name. We are currently trying to think of middle names for our
Mm,
daughter who has yet to come, and it's very difficult.
it is. It very much is. Yep. I think we changed our
But
son's name 2 to 3 times before he was born.
really, his first or his middle name, or
His
both?
the middle's hard. I don't know why we couldn't find a family name, and then don't tell him, but like after he was born, we found a family name, but we just were like, we're fine, but it's fine. So
Yeah, it's been
it's hard.
tricky. We agree on the first name very easily, but the middle name we'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. Yeah, love it.
But anyways, thank you for sharing all of that. And I would love for you to just kind of explain to the listeners, what is the difference between a florist and a floral designer? Because obviously they sound similar. There's
Yep.
probably some differences. So what are some of those differences?
Yeah. So for the longest, it was florist, and then it was introduced like floral designer. And then a new one, if I can throw another one in the hat, was artist. And that was something that I now believe that I am. I am a floral designer, but also an artist, more so. So with, all the respect in the world, a florist and a floral designer are two different things. A florist is more of, like flower shop, brick and mortar, everyday flowers, dozen roses sort of thing. And then a floral designer is more of someone who more of a high touch hand holding, throughout the event, or even, if you're designing for someone's home, it's more thought ideating, more of like that thought leader of the floral world. And then artists and artistry, for me, I think now I'm a floral designer and artist because I think events have evolved from when I first started years and years ago. It was more of I was a florist and I was a flower shop. I would like 10 arrangements and you just make the 10. Pinterest did not exist. I'm really showing my age now. Pinterest did not exist. It's just like, I like roses and drop and go. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. Some people are comfortable in that. And then there's people who want to be floral designers and really ideate and be like that creative partner with the couple or with the planner and alongside the event and create experiences. And I think that's what we're really all after. And I noticed a shift in the event industry after COVID, not to bring the COVID word up, but I did notice that shift with, people are wanting that experience. They want a feeling. And I think you can get that through a floral designer and artist rather than just like a florist. And again, nothing's wrong with a florist. It's just kind of leveling up, wanting to be more of that floral designer and that kind of as an introduction to that luxury world. So
That makes sense. And before I have some questions that relate to that, but I'm going to save
yeah,
it for when we're talking to vendors.
okay.
First, I would love to kind of speak to couples, peel back the curtain a little bit, give them some more insights, and then we can speak to the vendors. I would love to know, like, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that couples have when it comes to florals for their wedding?
Yeah, let's see. I would say if we're peeling back the curtain, I used to do this all the time, a lot of behind the scenes, and then just, life just gets too much, it's hard to like keep up with all the things. So it's not necessarily it is florals, but the biggest thing that we run into is the misconception is the amount of work that we put in just the week of leading up to the big day. So our wedding's on Saturday. Our flowers get shipped in a box on Tuesday, and I'll talk a little bit more in depth, like what goes in between Tuesday and Saturday, but Tuesday, and we put in a max of like 30, 40 hours just in that week leading up to Saturday. And that's not just one person. And I remember talking to someone, she was like, "What do you mean you hire other floral designers? You don't do it yourself?" And I'm like, I can't do 20 arrangements plus all these other things because what we're doing now is a production, it is a full experience. We're not doing a dozen roses. We're not, we'll have 5 bouquets, we'll have 50 arrangements, we'll have bar arrangements, and so I think the misconception is the amount of work and labor that goes into it before we even get to the day. And so a lot of times I have couples like, well, why is this? We have at the bottom of our proposal, design, labor, and travel charge. Travel is travel, right? But the labor piece of it is massive. So our flowers come in and we call them coffin boxes. Terrible name. But in the floral world, my people understand that is this is massive box and it's packed with flowers. So in Montana specifically, we're very seasonal. So we have snow probably 7, 8 months out of the year. And so we can't buy locally. And so everything gets shipped in on a plane. Then we go and we pick it up and they're in boxes and then they're wrapped. So the amount of hours there, it's called processing flowers, just to get them in, out of the box, into buckets. And then they have to hydrate. That alone, when you have maybe 4 to 5 people, staff, doing that because we're working with perishables. We're working with something that will die. And so that's another thing is like you have to have, that's why I can't do 50 arrangements because our time is so precious. So there's always a large labor charge or fee on our proposal or everyone's proposals. And so we have to break that down because a lot of times couples think that like we are, they see like grocery stores, Trader Joe's, or a flower shop, and they already see a pre-made arrangement. It's not the case. Like we get everything in a box, and we have to process everything. We have to make them. You have to keep them happy. Like we have to check on them. We have to make sure the water's fresh. In certain locations, it's drier. Georgia, it's super. I was gonna say super wet, but what's the word? It's dry here, and it's a lot more just wet, humid. That was the word I was looking
Hmm.
for. It's
I
humid
was
in
going to
Georgia,
say
and so
moist, but I was like, I don't think
moist,
that's the word.
wet, moist. Yeah, exactly. And so there, we don't have to worry about the buckets of water, but in other areas in drier air. And so we're babysitting these flowers to stay alive, and we have to get them on a Tuesday because it takes that much time, depending on the event size, right, to get everything prepped and ready to go. And then we put it all together on a Saturday, and then we're not done yet. We're still bringing it all back to the studio, cleaning everything, washing buckets, putting everything back where it goes. And so it's very hard to, with couples where like it's not just one flower arrangement. The price may be $250 for a centerpiece. It's not just the $250 of that centerpiece. It's the design, the labor that goes into that. And so that's, I think, the biggest misconception. I think that we as floral designers need to be a little bit more open and like peel back the curtain a little more. And that is something that I'm going to try to work on in 2026 and just go through like behind the scenes a little bit more. I've done it for years and years, and I just press pause because there's a ton of work, and there's so much involved. From I haven't even touched on much of any of it, but like so much goes into it. I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm rambling now, so I'll stop.
No, this is really great. This is
Okay,
awesome.
good.
And then for like getting your flowers, you said that you ship them in. Do
Mhm.
you ever, is it common to source flowers locally? Does it depend on the region or like the type of bloom?
Yeah, so we like to really take, let's see, for example, we just did a wedding in Napa this year, this August, and the couple picked the color yellow. I went out in April for a walkthrough, saw tons of yellow. I can't remember what was blooming. It might have been like yarrow or something blooming at the time. Of course, that was not going to be available come August. And so then we go back in August for the wedding, and I look over and there's something else blooming that's yellow. And so we as a company, we love to take what nature provides in that moment. So it could be like a fun surprise. We're still ordering everything that we were going to order. But then it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this dill weed or whatever, it was dill, that's what it was, is growing locally right here, because flowers are a natural, beautiful thing that comes from the earth, which is another thing. Us floral designers, like we have things die. I mean, it does. It happens without our control. And then sometimes things just don't come in because it there was a volcanic something or a hurricane, across, in Cuba or something, where sometimes we do have to get our flowers from. But we do try our best to, it's called foraging. It's something that came up years and years ago. It's always been something that I've been a big fan of because it looks native to, we always want it to look purposeful. We want it to look like it's native, like it was right there, born, right here locally, and absolutely trying to be sustainable as possible. And sometimes it's hard here in Montana. There's not much we can do but throw snowballs at each other for 8 months. But when we do have those summer events here, we absolutely lean into our farms here. We have incredible farms locally, and wildflowers are like the number one choice of flowers for our couples here. And most of our couples are coming from out of state, so they want the wildflower look, the Montana look. So we lean into our farms as much as we can. Yeah.
This kind of leads into my next question. I'm sure it's somewhat related. What makes a certain flower or bloom more expensive than another? I'm assuming, local versus not local. Maybe there's a premium type of bloom. What all goes into that?
Sure. So it's really just the premium, right? Like peonies, tomato. I'm sure everyone's heard of a peony. It has become, excuse me, a classic. It takes a lot of work to grow, which is another reason why they are premium. It takes a lot of work. Dahlias are a hot, like, absolutely, it's a Montana grown flower here, and everyone wants them. I remember a client telling me, I want dahlias up to my eyeballs. I'll never forget her. And so there's a lot that goes into growing flowers. There's some flowers that are easy peasy, they grow like weeds. And then there's some like roses, garden roses, the David Austin roses, peonies, dahlias. Ranunculus are very easy to grow. Don't know why. I think they're just a very popular flower, and those are getting, their price keeps increasing. So really it's a premium, we mainly do weddings, so it's really just a premium flower that our growers know that our clients like. And so one is hard to grow and hard to get, and then it's hot, right? So it's like first come, first serve. We've been working with our suppliers for well over 10 years, and so we kind of have first take, which is another reason why it's best to really go with, one of those floral designers that have been in the industry for quite a while, because they have the best relationships and they can pull strings for you too. So it's good to do your research and make sure that your floral designer knows what they're doing. For example, I know I keep bringing up Montana. but most of our work is here. We will have snowstorms. We will have windstorms. We will have things that happen, and we have to rely on our shipping, our wholesaler that ships in, and then we have to rely on our farms. And I can't tell you how many emails we got this year from our farm saying frost came early or the frost came late. Our summers really don't start until July 4th here. Crazy. And it killed all the ranunculus, and we had them ready to go for the next weekend. So we know how to pull those strings and ship something in, and our suppliers work with us really well. And we give them quite a lot of money too. So they're more than willing to help us out. So yeah.
That's nice. And so how far in advance would you recommend that couples should book their floral designer? Is it, I mean, like for photo video, it's could be around a year out. For floral designers, should it be even sooner? Is there like a time frame that it's too much of a rush or it's too far out? What's your recommendation?
So recommendation is a year would be ideal. We've planned a very large event in less than like 3 weeks before. We can handle that, but ideal. Right now we're booking into 2027, and that just makes my world so happy. We can go ahead and close those books out. It's really incredible. Honestly, it's truly just, I always say like our clients are planners. We don't do an event without a planner. It makes our lives easier, and we're kind of more in that luxury world. And so all of our clients mainly have planners. And my suggestion is book your planner, book your venue, because your venue and your planner are tied to a date, and we are very much tied to a date. So we can't do multiple weddings in a weekend or events in a weekend. And so it's like when you have the date, when you have your planner, you have your venue, then absolutely book us. I wouldn't say book us next, but don't sit on it too long. I guess my answer would be a year would be absolutely wonderful, but we have the capacity. We're able to plan something in less than 3 weeks. Not ideal, but we can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. That's very impressive. And can you walk me through what your typical inquiry to booking process looks like? I know that, of course, every single business is different, but possibly different floral designers might have a relatively similar process to you, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So this is my leading to that hot take possible question.
Okay.
So my process is likely a little different. I feel like I'm a little alone in this, but that's okay. So the booking process for us is inquiry on our website, or a planner emails us, and then we set up a call to kind of initially, well, there's two routes. Let's see. Let me pause for a second. One route would be from a planner, and 9 times out of 10, that's what our inquiries are. And we've either worked with this planner before or it's a new planner. And so our typical process is the planner kind of knows our process, but say they don't. So our typical process is getting to know each other. If the planner knows us already, they request, are we available that date? We say yes or no. And then after that, what happens next is our retainer. So we do require a retainer. It's a little different than most people. So our retainer is a certain amount of money, and we ask for that retainer to be fulfilled prior to the design consultation, a proposal makeup, legal agreement, all that good stuff. And what that retainer does is it holds their date. It's basically inventory on our calendar, and it holds it, and it's a promise. I call it a handshake, as to say, we're not booking anything, you're not booking anything. And what that allows to, I'm the creative director in my business, it allows me to take time to put together a very detailed proposal. It's not a copy and paste. It allows me to ideate, it allows me to get to know the client. So once that retainer is fulfilled, we're locked in. No one's going anywhere. We both know there's no shopping involved. It's a trust thing, right? And so after that is a design consultation. Either it's face to face or it's a Zoom call or something like that with the planner involved. We always love having our planners involved, and we just get in front of the client. So my biggest thing is getting to know the client. I'm at a point in my career where I don't do what I want to do, like, oh, this will be better if we did it this way. It's like, no, I listen to the client, I listen to the planner and then the couple, and understanding what they want for the big day, right? Like this is the most important day of their lives. And so we can't get it wrong. And I don't want them to walk in, that's my favorite part, to the reception and be like, what, this is not us. My job is as a professional is to listen to them, understand what they want to experience, what they want the guest to experience. And they always show images and we just kind of go over everything. And so I marinate, I like just let all that sink in. And then it usually does take me 2 to 3 weeks to put together a proposal because it's all a creation. It's all me as a designer putting something together that's one of a kind specifically to them. And then after that, they are fully in control, both the planner and the client, to go through it. And let's get back on the phone together because it's truly, we're not the big box shop where we're just like cranking proposals out left and right. We take a very small number of events a year because this is my full-time career, this is my full-time job. I want the planner and the client to have 1000% trust in me and my business that we've got them. We've got your back. And so I think the design is a huge part of it. My husband always said that like a wedding without flowers or without design is just a boring business meeting, right? Like we got to make it pretty. And then, yeah, they have the proposal, they have the legal agreement, they have all these pretty things, a mood board if the planner didn't provide. They have all these things up front. They know the payment schedule, everything's there. And at this point, there is that trust. They have the retainer, they know I'm not going anywhere. We've invested in each other. They get this beautiful proposal with imagery, and the legal agreement. And then after that, it's the deposit. We just break it down in 2 payments. And then it's just great relationship building from there. Hopefully we're a year out and we just have this great back and forth understanding. They can change anything up to 45 days prior. They can change the whole wedding. We can go to all purple if it was yellow. And that's really about it. Is the full booking.
So do you feel like your inquiry to booking process has changed over the years from, when you started to where you are now, where couples and vendors or planners are basically coming to you and they trust you before receiving like a mood board or like a design deck? Has that always been the case? Is it different now?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I did not. 13 years ago, I just was writing proposals, sending it out. And I would say about 6 years ago, I did start the retainer, and it was a small little baby retainer because I took baby steps into this because it is scary to just be like, hey, like, I'm not going to give, and again, this is the difference between a florist and a floral designer, right? And you have to build trust. It's so important. So, coming right out as being a florist, floral designer, you do have to build that reputation. You have to build that portfolio. And so what I say is, and I still have planners, just last week that doesn't understand the retainer process. And I'm a believer in staying true to my boundaries. And I truly believe that like what I put together and my vision, it deserves value. And so I've got tons and tons and tons of work on my website, my Instagram. I have reputable businesses that I've done work with, VVIP clients, Fortune 500, 9,000, whatever the thing is, companies that have trusted in us. And so I try my best to just stay true to what I believe I'm worth. And I think if we can all kind of stick to that, it's super important. So it has evolved. It's still a work in progress. With new planners, there is a little bit of like that trying to build that trust, and it is still something that I'm working on. But I think it's what I'm trying to explain is we're worth it, and our designs, our designs speak that, and so for me, it's like when clients come to us, they're not shopping, and I mean that in no, disrespect by any means. It's just like with the planners that we worked with, we have about 5 or 6 that we work with. They know my process. They're like, hey, Amanda, I have a client, and the planner trusts in us, and they know that we will do a fabulous job. And so I have a client. I know your retainer process. They're good with it, ready to go. And so it really is building that trust with the couple and having the planner have our back because it is different, I completely understand that, but I am not like those. I'm just not a cookie cutter copy paste proposal writer. When they hire us, they're hiring a designer. And now with planners, they're the designers and I'm just executing for them. And my planners that I work with time and time again, they pull me in when they need that extra help with design. And we stay in our lane, everything's great. And so, yeah. And, the retainer is non-refundable if they don't go with us, but the retainer does go toward the total. So they're not losing the money. It's truly, I just call it like a handshake. So, yeah, I think I answered the
I mean,
question.
that makes a lot of sense because if you are putting in the work to
Hmm.
give them this design, you're putting in all these hours, that is work. And that's much different than for us a proposal. I mean, like yes, it takes a little time to put it together for us for videography, but
Hmm.
it's nothing like designing up a whole thing with flowers and different elements and different designs. So that makes sense to me. But I could see that some people might be like, oh, I just don't want to pay. I want the proposal first.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I do understand it. I 100% do, but we are the only vendor. I mean, think about catering. Like they likely have a menu that they do. And if someone does want something more custom, which with us, every floral designer, it's always custom, unless, there's a client that just they want a DIY or, we're just not for them. And that's okay. We all have budgets from $5,000 to $50,000. So we are the only vendor that are truly creating, and the planner, when they are hired as a designer, they're creating these designs from scratch. And so we're in the same boat. We're not always using the same, really anything. I don't think I've replicated not one wedding. So we're truly making a custom proposal. And so, yeah.
And do you feel like this might be different now, but I guess in general, and then maybe your clients, do you feel like couples' expectations are typically aligned with their budget when it comes to flowers in general?
Hmm.
And then you could speak about like your clients that come to you specifically through planners.
Yeah. So the planners that I work with a lot, yes. I love being very much, I'm so transparent. Like, if the planner is like, hey, I have this client, she's got $50,000 to spend on flowers. Here's the design deck I've created. Can you take a look at it? Let me know if I'm pretty spot on. And that is the relationship that we want with our planners because let's just be transparent. Let's be open. Let's talk through things. Let's not show a design deck that's $200,000 in design and the client has $10,000. Like, woo, we're way off because we're not going to meet anyone's expectations. And everyone's on a budget. Just like I said, whether it's 5 or 50, we have to talk numbers because like why I always say, let's talk about the elephant in the room. It's always price. It's always money. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like it truly is, but like getting straight to that, having that hard conversation as a professional, that's that's where you need to start is just to be transparent with everything. And so yeah, absolutely. Like having those conversations up front and having that amazing relationship with a planner and not just having a conversation, and just having a real conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the transparency. I love when planners and couples are transparent with us and we're transparent with them. It just helps the whole process be so much better. I mean, I get it. Talking about money can be awkward, at least
Yeah.
at first,
Yeah,
but it needs to be done.
it does. And I remember in my early career, it was so hard for me to talk about. I put a minimum, and I'll say some numbers. Like very early in my career, my minimum was $2,000. And if my mom watches this, she's might hurt me, but she was like, "That's so mean. Why would you do that? Like it's a like why?" And I'm like, "No, like mom, like things are expensive. Like I have to, and there's a lot that goes into that minimum and why, but like I just going ahead and having those, it just really just makes such a difference. And again, it doesn't matter, like we all have budgets. We all do. And I always say like if we all have values, we all have like we prioritize certain things, right? I always say like for a hairstylist, right? Like sometimes like I don't really care. My hair is my hair for me. And there's some people who go to the same person or they go to a new person and they see the value in spending $500 on their hair. And there's some people that just like, I just want to get my hair cut. It doesn't matter. I always throw that out there. Like that, and it's okay. Like if you want to go over here instead of us, that's okay. We're just not for you. And that's okay, you know? So yeah.
I completely agree. You kind of alluded to this earlier, but do you have any hot takes when it comes to working with couples, or any hot takes that are couples related?
Yeah, the retainer piece, I know we kind of touched on that. I would love for that to be something that everyone can kind of get behind. I think it's best for all parties. And then the other hot take for me is just because what was done at the venue doesn't mean we have to do it again. I see it time and time again, and it's fine. It's just it's okay to kind of go outside the box. It's okay for you to have your own look. Like I love to see a lot of different looks at the venues, but it's almost like sometimes couples get stuck on, oh, well, this was what was done there. Or have you been, that's another one. Have you been to
Oh
this
yeah.
venue before? It's like,
Yeah.
well, no, but as a professional, I'm gonna go if we book together and I'm gonna learn it. I've been doing this for years and years. Like we create events out of nothing, like a tent, and so this venue, like I got it, when we had our one in Napa, I went to the walkthrough and that's what is it? You do your due diligence. Like you understand the rules behind the venue, but just because I have not, as a floral designer, been to a venue doesn't mean I don't know how to do the event, So I have noticed throughout my career that's like a really big question is like, well, have you done any work at this venue? Like, oh, you haven't? Okay, no. Next. So the hot take is just like a good professional floral designer will understand that venue inside and out so that they will do a good job and, take care of the client and all that. So, yeah.
I have a similar hot take for videographers about when couples ask if we have worked at their venue. It's like, there's so many venues out there. We haven't worked at them all, but we've worked in all different types of lighting, all different types of environments. And like you said, a professional is going to do a great job wherever it is. And we're going to do our due diligence. Oh my gosh, that word.
I know I
Due
couldn't say it either.
diligence.
Due diligence. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tongue twister. Before we move on to kind of talking to vendors, do you feel like there's anything else that you wish couples knew about floral designers or florists, or anything that we haven't touched on or that you wanted to touch on more?
Yeah. I think I would say maybe floral designers for sure, but this industry, I wouldn't say little, or yeah, small but mighty event industry truly cares. I can't tell you how many moments and times where I have bent over backwards, me personally, or my team have likely been in a very not so safe environment in order to make our clients' dreams come true. I think every professional in this industry believes that. I think, I'll just stick with floral designers because I don't know. We love what we do. Like I started this because weddings are happy and and I've said it before, like it's the most important day of their lives and I want to be a part of that. I can't tell you how many times I love to just stop and watch. I keep talking about Napa. It's probably been one of my favorite, probably one of my favorite weddings of my career. And it's because not only the couple, but oh, I'm gonna get a little emotional. The dads came up to me during the wedding. I was still there because I have a great relationship with this planner, and she wanted me to stick around, and I was very involved. They both came up to me and like hugged me and just said thank you. It's like that's why we do it. Like we all truly, truly care. I think for all of us, we really do care. The business owners, this is our livelihood, and it's why we did get in it because it's love. And I think sometimes we kind of forget, and I'm glad I still have those moments with families and couples where they appreciate what I do. And because I always and my team too. Like we go leaps and bounds and up till 3 a.m. sometimes just to make it all happen. And so I think there's a lot of chatter at times in the event world, but I think there's also, the event industry is not pulling back the curtain enough to show what we really do go through for our couples, because we go through a lot. And, we're not trying to get a trophy. We just want you to know, like, try to start with trust and maybe a little bit of grace first and understand us instead of just going into it so hot with like money, 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 like let's have that conversation, but like look at us as professionals and as a business. And for us floral designers, like we're not the grocery store. We're not, like we are artists and designers, and we're cheering you on. We want the best for you. We truly do. But we also had to operate a business, Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. Well, I'd love to kind of now speak a little bit towards vendors and just kind of peel back the curtain for vendors who, maybe don't know as much about floral designers, but obviously we all work with you to some capacity. So, what do you feel like are some of the biggest misconceptions that vendors specifically have about floral designers?
It's probably the amount of work that we put in that same week. We're already exhausted before we even get to the big day. We are creatives. We're not, I think for floral designers, we're creatives first. We're softies. We're emotional. We want to be behind the scenes. We want to get in and get out and get out of the way. So I think it's just kind of having a better understanding of the amount of work that we truly put in before we have even got there on day one, or not day one, but on event day. So we're all trying to, at the end of the day, do the best for our clients. And so there's teams. I've walked into some events, 20 something people, just all of us showing each other the respect for one another and being a team player for one another, and knowing that we're dealing with perishable items. There's times where bouquets are just, in Georgia and in the South, we suggest in the heat, the hot summers that Georgia offers, 2 bouquets. And so with photographers, I let them know, like, hey, we've got, I know you're doing pictures. I've got a vase here. I can assign a team member to put the arrangement of the bouquet back in the vessel. It's super important to us to make sure it stays alive. So that too, like understanding that we're working with flowers that if they stay out of water for too long, they're going to die. So yeah. Mm, 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 mm. And all of our couples always want hydrangeas, and those are the hardest things. But we know how to take care of them. We have probably 10 to 15 spray bottles on hand when we are dealing with hydrangeas. So, yep.
Wow, the things that I don't see, but
Yep.
I get
Yeah.
to capture, the end result. This next one, this is a listener question, and it's from a wedding planner. She wanted to know, how involved would you like to be in the planning process, specifically for floral designers, maybe not necessarily speaking from the florist perspective?
Sure. I've noticed a shift in the past, I would say, year or 2 years. Not that anyone else is not important, but I think it's the trio. It's the planner, the photographer, and the floral designer. Those three need to talk once a month. I think, all staying within our lanes, no one stepping on toes. And I think that does happen a lot. Planners see us as the designer, and I'm just there to, what do you need? Do you need me to step in as design? Do you need me to just step in floral? I have expertise in both, and I'm happy to help where you need me. And so I would love to be at the beginning, the very beginning. And most of my planners that I do work with, I am at the beginning. New planners, it's a little different. It's a little bit more of an education and just kind of talking through and that trust. And so, yeah, it's really just being involved. Step one, we behind the scenes, we've helped planner, like we help planners, we're there as a team. I always walk into every event as a team. We're all there to make sure the client is happy. And there's a lot of things that happens behind the scenes that sometimes we don't tell planners and we'll help out with, or any vendor, right? Someone needs a lighter because they forgot, and so we're like, oh, we've got one, But I really think with planners, if you can have both floral and photographer there on date, whenever they're ready. But in the very beginning, one, to build trust. It's so much about trust. Two is to understand what the client wants, what they want to capture, what they want to feel, what they want to experience. And then, for photography, like what to capture, what's important, what's important to these two special people on this big day. And then just to be of assistance, right? If the planner promises, peonies for this client, I go like, oh, no, 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 like they're not available that weekend, just to be a helping hand. And so I would say 100% get that floral designer and photographer. I think that trio. And I have noticed a lot of planners are sticking with one or two designers or a photographer, and then it's just that's the trio going into every event now. And you get comfortable, you know how each other works, you know your process, they know their process, you know that you can 100% count on them. Planners ship things to us, if they need that help, whatever you need. And so building relationships. And I always say, like, our flowers are pretty, but I think where we shine is our kindness and our professionalism. I started this 13 years ago because I love flowers, and now I'm operating a business, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. But I've stayed in that realm of being kind and a team player and staying professional. I think sometimes floral designers, it's hard to transition that over, right? Like, love making pretty flowers, now I have to rely on my team to help with the flowers and such because I can't do it all anymore. And what role I've stepped into is relationship building. So having those conversations with planners, having those conversations with couples, and making sure I collaborate and get all that information, and then it spills down into my team to make those pretty flowers and such. So,
do you have any tips for photographers and videographers how we can work better with floral designers, or sometimes we don't see you guys, but like the design of the wedding day, if that question makes sense?
Yeah, definitely. So I've noticed over the years, sometimes like our bouquet, our couples are nervous, right? And so they pull their bouquet, they pull it out of the vase and they hold it. And I will never tell them ever it's backwards. And I'm like, oh no, like how did, no one's really gonna know that, but like having the floral designer be a part of to be your, I have been a second for a photographer, see the ranunculus, those ranunculus, oh my God, they break all the time. We wire them all now. It flopped over, and like all I can see, and I get the pictures back, and all I see is this like broken ranunculus that's right in the front. Granted, it shouldn't have broke in the first place. That's our job to make sure that doesn't happen. But like having the photographer, videographer, or a second, or having a floral designer by your side, making sure everything is perfect, or a stylist. I call it a stylist. Like I think, more of these high-end events and couples, making sure, you have that person that's, the eyes that sees every little thing and everything's perfect. Just recently I had a videographer. He asked me to walk with him to make sure everything was seamless, from not only the florals, but the tabletop and the knives and the candles, and everything was straight and perfect. He's like, if you see something, pause me or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, like yes, like this is what we need to be doing. I think it's just more collaboration with each other. It's almost like we all step on each other's toes, and because we are all the most important vendor, right? But like if we all look at each other like we're all like one little family and just help each other. One thing I did want to, so, something that we implemented a couple of years ago, I noticed a need for photographers. It's so cute. Y'all always come up to us. You're like, hi, can I get some flowers for the invitation, the suite and stuff? And so I'm like, there's some need here. And I always feel like they feel like weird, or I don't know. And so what we do now is just complimentary. And we put this in our proposal, is we call it a styling kit. and we fill it up, this cute little box, and it's filled with all the blooms that we use the day of. It's got ribbons. And with our clients, we work with all sorts of stuff. Like sometimes there'll be moss in there, there'll be rocks in there, there'll be little cute snail figurines. We do some wild things. And so we make a styling kit because I noticed a need there because they would, you'd always come over and then we're scrambling, right? And sometimes like the flowers that they pulled are from the rehearsal dinner the night before, but somehow the bucket got to the wedding and they're like, oh no, this is the wrong flower, and so I think just again communication, but that is a fun little, I think a nice little tip and something that we do for our photographers and our clients. We just already are like, here you go, here's your little box, do what you want. You don't have to give it back, don't worry about it, all good to go. So
I like that. I think more florists and floral designers should do that. And I think majority of the floral designers and florists that we work with are very collaborative in sharing their blooms.
yeah,
But we
yeah,
have had in, the beginning of our, journey, we have worked with florists who refuse to give any flowers for the flat lay. And I was just like, this doesn't make sense. This is
yeah,
basically like free marketing. I mean,
uh-huh,
free, quote unquote.
yeah,
This is marketing for you, photos and videos of your beautiful flowers. But, I like that you already have like the kit with all the cute accessories. That's really
yeah.
good.
Collaboration. It's all you got to do.
Yeah.
It's all we have to do. We all could just get out in front of each, just, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I feel you.
More on that later, maybe.
Yeah. So we're coming to a close, but I do have a few more questions before we wrap up. This is another listener question. It's actually from a photographer, and she would love to know, where do you draw your inspiration from when designing florals for a client?
Sure. So this goes back to giving the artist, the floral designer, time to create that proposal. There's many questions that I ask in the initial design call or face-to-face meeting is, where do they go? Where do they travel to? What do they like to do? What does their living room look like? What do you wear? Like where's your favorite shopping? Just to really understand who they are. We're all different. And it's my job and the planner's job to make sure the design is them. Kind of going back to what I said before, like I'm designing, you're hiring me as a professional to execute what you want and the images that you provide and that sort of thing. And so, and the other piece of it is I find so much inspiration in just travel. I do a lot of travel all over the world. No, not recently, maybe 3 years ago. It was kind of funny. We had this amazing client at Lake Oconee, at Ritz-Carlton, and this planner called me and she was like, hey, I've got a really great one for you. She wants bugs, snakes, strawberries, fairy tale. She's like, it's all yours. I was like, oh, that sounds perfect. That's my kind of client. And then, of course, we could do hydrangeas and roses and beautiful things like that. But this one is, for example, is one of those ones where the planner's like, I need you to help design. And so I stepped into the design role and she was the planner. Both of us couldn't do it without each other. And I met with the client, got to know them for a full hour, just understanding what they wanted and, of course, getting like table counts, fun stuff like that. And then my family and I went on a trip. It actually took me quite a while to put together the design. We went, I think it took me almost 3 weeks to put together the design. And between those 3 weeks, I don't know, I was having trouble. This was one of those ones where we had to fit all these things in it was like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was after party, it was welcome dinner, it was a full wedding day. And how do we put these little things in that's cohesive and it's not, what's the word? Tchotchke? Like it all just flowed well. And my family and I had already had a trip planned to Glacier National Park. And oh my gosh, I had so much inspiration. It was accidental, so much inspiration in hiking. And I've been to Glacier, but because I had this hour phone call with this client, I like my brain, my creative mind I saw Glacier and our hikes in such a different way. There's moss everywhere. There's fairy gardens. There's not fairy gardens, but like, uh, and so I got home. I took pictures. My pictures were actual life pictures that I took as a designer, and I was able to put into the mood board. And then when I presented the design and as I spoke about it, she was almost in tears. She was like, I closed my eyes and I felt like I was in this fairy tale, magical, and I'm getting all hippy dippy, but like that's what we do as creatives, as artists, like she saw, had the vision. Like she saw what I was trying to get on paper. And as I was talking through it, she was mesmerized. And from that point on, I'm bringing the T word, 100% trust. It's because I was able to take the time to build something incredible for her. This was an investment. This was a big one. And it was super, it was only child. The parents were, they were like, whatever you want, kind of thing. And it was incredible. It was one of my favorite ones to this day. So yeah, my inspiration really comes from our clients, and it's so much fun because there's always different ones. I've got one that's purple and mounds of hydrangeas and clouds. And then we've got the all yellow one. We've got a Sangeet we're doing later this year, the montage. And so they're all different. And if I wasn't allowed, that trust and that time to ideate and come up with these amazing concepts alongside the planner, uh, I don't think we could create these experiences for these clients that are coming to us for that experience and investing in us for those things.
Yeah. I'm sure you have a lot of fun when they're like, I basically just need you to design this. I don't
Oh yeah,
really, I have a few ideas, but
right,
I trust you.
right.
That's awesome.
Those are the best, but sometimes they're not. If we completely miss the mark, or they're like, I'm like, can you give me something, or we like to get to know, like we ask for their Instagram or their social media handle, because right, we all put most of our lives out into the world. And so I need to get to know you that way. Because a lot of clients, they're like, I have no creative bone in my body. Please, whatever you want. And then we do that. We kind of do sometimes miss the mark. So, oh, I don't, and I'm like, okay, well, come on, like you got to pull it out of them. Like, give me something. Where are we going? Are we going to New York? Are we going to Paris? Are we just hiking in the wood? Like who are you? So I absolutely love the ones that they're like, we trust you. But I do need like, I need a little bit of something, because sometimes I can go completely out of the box and they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, let's get back in the box a little bit. I'm like, yeah, okay, we got it. So.
Well, before we wrap up, do you have any hot takes when it comes to working with specifically other vendors that you maybe haven't mentioned before or you already touched on before?
Yeah, it's really the retainer element, and just kind of respecting and understanding that piece of it, as a designer. And the hot take is just like, we're all there to make sure the client is happy at the end of the day. And if we do work together, it helps everyone out. So many examples of like our ladder was in front of a speaker the other day, and we just didn't notice it. There's so much going on. We only have like what 3-4 hours for us to set up, and just having those conversations with each other and knowing at the end of the day, it's like if we could just all are a team player and work together, then like we'll be good to go. Uh, but no, I don't want to keep rambling on about the retainer piece, but that's truly just my biggest thing is I want floral designers to feel like they have value, and our couples to not necessarily respect it, but have a little bit more of an understanding of it. And if not, that's okay. But just kind of making this the norm a little bit more. So yeah.
Well, thanks so much for sharing all of your insights. I knew this was going to
Yeah.
be a good episode.
Hope so. Thank you for
Before we
having me.
close, oh yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. Could you share with the listeners, if they want to find you, see your work,
Yeah.
social media, website, where can they find you?
Yeah, definitely. So we are obviously on all the platforms, amandajewel.com. And then our Instagram is kind of where most of our life does live. I hide away over in Montana, but most of our work is all over the country. Born and raised in Georgia, so I'll have great connections there, and you'll see us all over the country next year. And where you will see us very soon is we just became the first one and only resort here in the country. We are their official floral designer partner. So if you come to Big Sky, the entire resort, there's 6 restaurants, and the entire resort is us. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Congratulations.
so excited.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all your insights. I really enjoyed this episode. I'm sure our listeners will really love it as well. And I'll talk to you later.
Hey, bye. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Wedding Pro podcast. If you found this episode helpful, we would love it for you to share with a fellow vendor or someone who's getting married soon. Your support means the world to us and helps us reach more people in this amazing industry. We'll see you next time.